Yeah, right on, man. Well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into your work. But before we do that, I want to know 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out how this pandemic was going to shake out. How
Yeah.
did you make it through it, and how did it change you?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, it changed me significantly. For one, my business entirely changed. I had, in Leadershipity, we are a leadership firm, right? And we had a client base of about 44% in Canada. So the border closed. And it was, and by happenstance, this 44% all came up for renewal within 100 days on agreements. And we are usually a monthly recurring revenue model. We are under an agreement for 6, 12, 18 months, 24 months. And just so happens that these 100 days. And so we literally lost 100% of our client base in Canada. They were, hey, no one's crossing the border. No one's comfortable with Zoom training. What is Zoom? Right. Which now we're like, hey, Zoom, let's get on. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was rough, man. I mean, we literally have been rebuilding the company ever since.
Wow. So take me back to, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. I want to get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis.
Sure.
So you're in front of these kids, and one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Yeah. Yeah. I help create leading winning teams. I wrote the book on leading winning teams. And so I help people become great leaders, and we help each individual in an organization grow. And then that helps the whole organization grow as a unit.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Professional baseball player.
Okay. All right. What was your team? Oh, okay. All right.
And I didn't really reach that dream. I never played in the major leagues. And as a 23-year-old, I was told you'd make a good coach. And I had played at Division I baseball and beyond that. And then um, I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that someday. And that was a job transition going on there. And I immediately moved into coaching. I had a degree in exercise physiology and health and wellness and physical education. And I got the chance to coach in the major leagues in 1993 as a 23-year-old with Sparky Anderson and the Tigers, my hometown team. I'm a Michigan kid. And the strike hit in 94. I went to work for Coach Saban at Michigan State. And then, not even within a year, I was offered a major league job with the Cleveland Indians. Went to Cleveland, two World Series with them in 95 and 97 on their coaching staff. And then signed with the Angels in 99 and won a world championship with them. And that was that ring right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So that was my dream, and I really wanted to reach my dream. And what happened along the way, Joe, was my dream transitioned, right? And what was really cool is I became a dream maker. So in 1995, I was 25 years old, and I looked out from the dugout in Cleveland, Ohio, and went, hey, man, we were all just running around like 10, 15 years ago in our backyards going, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. Here comes Clark in a wiffle ball game, right? And this was our dream. And now I'm with these 30 men that are living it. And I felt like I had a big part in helping them get there and stay there and position themselves for the opportunity to play for their dreams of a world championship and be a World Series champion. And that didn't happen overnight. Yeah, I started in 93. The first championship for the World Series was '02. So we lost two before that. But man, I love one of my buddies was like, man, you've been to three, you've been to 5%, like of all the World Series championships. And it was like funny how people put it in perspective, right? That like,
Yeah.
so I was like, yeah, we've done all right, man. It's been a pretty good run.
So what is it that you learn from being a coach that from the players? Because we as fans, we don't see the things on the inside that you do.
Yeah.
I've been a journalist, and I have been around some players and in situations where people don't see it. And they're just people. But there's a part of you as a coach that can hone in and find that piece. What's a common element about these athletes that you can find a way to unlock to make them spectacular?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of things. I just wrote this book called Leading Winning Teams with Wiley, right? And it is all about how all these lessons of athletics transitions to organizational leadership and moving into whatever you're doing next in your career. And I think that's a real challenge because I think athletes go, I don't have any skills. I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like, here are huge skills. So the first one is hyper learning. I mean, athletes learn very quickly, they adapt very quickly, and they have an ability not only to learn, but they learn how to execute a bunch of different skills because when something's not working out well and Joe, you're getting at us and we can't figure it out, we got to be able to execute other things that are going to work. And you have to do them almost as well as you do the best stuff that you do. So adaptability is absolutely a huge itty. You got that leadershipity, and there's all those itties, right? Of accountability, and that's just a big deal when we're looking for, the best in the world. We're talking about coachability, adaptability, responsibility because they take it. There's a lot of responsibility on athletes and they learn priority, which is very big. And then when they do things really well, and time again, they get that dependability marker. And man, when you have dependable players on your team and you have people that are willing to do the hard work and and understand the priority of things and time management, you know what, Joe? It's one of those things where, as a coach, you start saying to yourself, well, hey, Joe, I'll take 10 more just like him. Well, Joe's not the fastest. He doesn't throw the hardest. And I'm like, yeah, but he does everything we ask. And he understands all these intangibles of getting to the next level and positioning himself for success. And he's always physically, mentally, emotionally, and morally prepared. And man, when athletes really get that right, they really set themselves up. And at the same time, Joe, as you mentioned, like these are still human beings. Like you still have sick children, you still have mortgage payments, you still have all these things, and you have relationship challenges, and they're like, man, it's almost like he's human. Like, yeah, he is, right? Like, yeah, because he hits a ball 500 feet doesn't mean that people don't have the same thing. So I think that's sometimes a complex we have in the United States and probably around the world where we have a little hero complex around our athletes. And I think it's really important for athletes to stay grounded. And I think getting that spirituality is really right for athletes, having a higher power that it's not all about them is really a really important thing because if you get too self-focused, you start believing press clippings, and man, that's a dangerous world, Joe. Because one day you're the best thing the town's ever had, and let's give him a multi-year contract, and the next day you strike out in the ninth with 2 outs and trade him. He's the worst. I don't know why we ever got this guy. And so
Yeah.
it's fickle, right? And so you better be grounded in who you are and know your foundation and know what you're about because there's some challenges along the way, and there's a lot of voices and a lot of things you got to block out.
So in the path to getting a World Series ring and doing all that blood, sweat, and tears, and being around people like Sparky Anderson and other people that are stellar, what was the year or what was the period in your life where you grew the most? Where not necessarily that it was harrowing, but it was enough for you where you went to a different level and knew your calling and got there?
Yeah, that's so I had this thing I called Joe called the audit of excellence. And so my high school team played in the state championship my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then I went on to play in two national championships in junior college. And then I went on to 2 years of university where we didn't win anything. And then I went on and signed in Detroit and we weren't very good. And then I went to the World Series twice in 3 years with Cleveland. So, man, I had like 7 championships in like 11 years. And we didn't really we won one of them and the other ones we finished close, like and short. And all the time, Joe, I'm wondering like why are we winning? Why are we losing? Who wins and why do they win? Right? And so I'm just auditing excellence all the time. Like what creates the value? And so I learned tons of great lessons. Like Coach Saban is an expectation guy. Like he just sets the bar high and it's like the moon, man. And it's just like, whoa. And some people get close, and close to Coach Saban means 7 years in the NFL. Like, like it's like, hey man, I don't know if you ever met his expectations, but like, and what I found in that lesson, Joe, is that, no one bumps up against a low expectation and then surpasses it by 100%. Most people hit a low expectation, go over it a little bit, and then, kind of settle in.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting lesson along the way. I learned self-discipline's a big deal. I learned the pain exchange, which is my TEDx talk, right? The pain exchange is the two disciplines in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret, and you choose. So we are going to have pain, and that pain of discipline is short and acute pain. It's going to hurt. It's not comfortable. You're going to have to work hard. You have to do things that you don't really want to do, but you put your head down and you get through them, and it's short-term pain. Just like you and I hiking the mountain tomorrow, we're going to be sore. Like you and I were like, dang, but we feel good. Like we did something, we accomplished something. Hey, 2 days later, the soreness is gone.
Yeah.
Right. And we did hike the mountain, and we're like, dang, Joe, like we hiked that thing. Like, check it out. We got the pictures to prove it.
Yeah.
And we're excited about that discipline. The discipline of regret is chronic. Ah, Joe, man, we had a chance to build our company and double it and hire an all-star, and we passed on her, and she was fabulous, and we made a mistake, and we didn't do our due diligence, and we should have been more intentional. And man, emotionally, I reacted poorly, and I regret blowing up a good friendship and a relationship. Those regrets are chronic pain that I have 30 years later. I mean, it's crazy that that stays with me. And, in professional athletics, I see it at a level where, young athletes really had a chance and they were positioned for great opportunity and didn't want the discipline to take care of themselves, didn't have the discipline to put themselves to bed at night, running the streets and staying out late, drinking too much, whatever your thing, not listening to coaching, too much, dripping that confidence into arrogance. And then I think they've got that regret of, man, I had my chance and I blew it. And that chronic pain of regret. I see, you know, young men that are 35 years old who've been running to a bar stool every day at 3 o'clock to drown the pain of that regret because 12, 13 years before, they weren't very disciplined as young men and they didn't make that choice. And now they regret. They got this different pain, and the only way they live with themselves is drowning that regret. And it's temporary relief, right? Because you still wake up the next day, and that's why it's chronic pain. And I think everyone, Joe, in my age, in your 50s, you have regrets, right? Like you just have like, man, I wish I would have done something different that day and that moment. And I think all of us as people have them. We err. We make mistakes, and we need forgiveness. We need grace, and probably for ourselves more than anybody. But man, that regret can be really painful, and it can stay with us a long time.
So you've lived in a land full of heroes, just lots of them. But for you in your life and your rise and your success and your evolution, who's been that hero for you?
Ooh, man, that's good. My dad was great, man. I had a fabulous father, blessed to be in a relationship with a good parenting structure and taught us the foundations and of what's right and wrong and modeled that as well. I mean, I don't think perfectly, right, Joe? Like I'm not gonna look at the man and go, oh, he never erred, never made a mistake. There's a ton of things as a dad I wanted to take forward, and a couple things I was like, I'll never do that. And Joe, the old adage, like, I'll never say that to my kids. And then you're driving down the road and going, don't make me pull this car over and come back there. Like, I'm going back there. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm my dad. I just became my dad. I just said something my dad says, right? And so but I think heroes come in a lot of shapes, man. I mean, a lot of mentors came alongside me and they were my heroes, man. They and I do that. I pay it forward because so many people that were much smarter, much more talented than I gave time to help me become what I could become. And they just got behind me, supported my dreams, supported my efforts. And that's just been an awesome thing. And so, when I think about like the heroes on the field, Probably some of my best heroes in sports are probably not the best players. They were heroes as people. And what I love to hear about great athletes and great anyone is someone who's super exceptional at something they do. Like you, Joe, you're an exceptional podcaster. You do a lot of things. And when someone says, "Oh, he's an exceptional podcaster," but he's a more exceptional person. And man, when I hear that, I'm just like, amen. That's who I want to be around. Like I surround myself with winners. My show is Winners Find a Way. And winners, when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win. And man, those people in my life who have solution driven, humble enough to admit they're wrong, go back to the drawing board. I want to surround myself with those people all the time. And it just makes me better as a human. And man, it's pretty cool to be surrounded by heroes.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, speaking in that vein of the grit and the determination, you would assume people would assume meeting you with your ring that that final pitch, that final game that brought the championship would have been the best thing that you ever saw. But there's magic in moments that we don't expect. What was that game for you that you either played in as a player or that you witnessed where you were like, my God, that was the thing. That was the theater of everything.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moments, right? It is surreal when the last out's made on a world championship, especially when you went to two World Series before and lost, right? Like so
Yeah.
it is surreal. Like it's hard to believe the out is. So it's a big deal. But as a father, when your children are born, I think that's the closest thing to meeting God. I think that spiritually, you look into God's eyes when you see your baby. It's like this whole miracle just happened, and you're like, holy cow, like this is crazy. And it humbles you immediately because the child is entirely dependent on other humans, right? Like there's really no resilience to the child itself. Like the child won't make it without humans, right? And so the miracle of it is pretty special. I was a kid. Probably one of my experiences as a kid was I had a couple really great ones. Um, I set a couple goals when I was like eighth grade and really wanted to be something in my life. And I was the youngest of four, so I really took that assignment seriously. First kind of chance in goal setting. And then a couple years after that, I was at a showcase, and that was really special. That there's not like today where they're everywhere. This was rare. It was just like Willy Wonka get the golden ticket. You got to get the invite. And I went into a program with 8 counties, and the camp was run by a former major leaguer. I'd never met a former major leaguer, and when I got my ticket, it was this moment of the best player, the MVP, will be get a chance to sit down with the director of the showcase, who was this major leaguer. So I knew I had to get that. So prep, man, like workout, lifting. I was really playing on a very good team at that time. So we're seeing high level competition. I'm training in the mornings, playing in the evenings, lifting in the afternoons. I don't play and ready to go. And Joe, what happens when, operate preparation meets opportunity, and had a great week, hit like 560 and got my chance, got the MVP. And I sat down with him and he asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do what you did. I want to play in the majors. And he said, yeah, seen you, Trent, and I think you can do it. I was blown away, man. I was like, wow, it's just the end of my freshman year. I hit 500 as a freshman. And I was thinking, I'm a pretty good player, but I don't know where I stand. And then, one of those stupid teen confidence things, I just maybe blurting, right? I just said, hey, sir, with all due respect, everybody else is telling me no. I'm not fast enough. I'm not big enough. I'm not strong enough. And my voice in my head has started to tell me I'm not enough. And he said, let me ask you a question, Trent. Of all these people that are telling you no, who are these people? I'm like, my PE teacher, my ninth grade coach, my mom, and it wasn't malice, like it was ill will. It was like, hey, there's a fraction of 1% make it, Trent. You need a backup plan. That was the iteration, but that's not what my focus on. My focus was I need to be a major leaguer. And he just said, hey, any of these people play in the major leagues? And I said, no. And he said, I'm going to give you a piece of advice I need you to take with you. And that is, I'm going to caution you that whenever you want to do something in this life, you need to seek someone who has done it. And man, I have taken that advice ever since, man. When people start talking, I love the Holiday Inn Express commercials, stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night. Like I think that's funny. But when people start saying, hey, you know what you need to do in your business, Joe? Like, hey, have you owned a business, Trent? Can you really speak to this? And I find like advice is really inexpensive and bad advice is really expensive. And so when I'm constantly vetting folks that are giving me information because I do not like to be shit on. And you should do this, Joe. You should do that. I don't care for that.
Yeah.
But I do seek wisdom and advice, but I seek it from those that have come before me, that have already done what I want to do. And I've taken that advice, man, from that time on, from the time I was 14, 15 years old. And that has really served me. That was a huge mentor moment. That was a big moment for me in life. I think another big moment was as a young kid, I was this is how I got on the map. I was playing against Steve Avery. Steve Avery is a great pitcher, left-hander for the Braves, and he was a Michigan kid, and we were playing in a regional event. And I was reading now positive affirmations. This is after that coach, talked to me, and I didn't want to be listening to the you can'ts. You're not this, you're not that. So I was focusing on the little engine that could, man. I think I can. I was in the Henry Ford. If you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. And I was like, I think I can. And we're playing a big game, regional game, and Steve's gonna throw the next day. My buddy's like, man, I'm gonna strike out 4 times in front of all these scouts. Because when Steve Avery throws in high school, like everyone came. He was like 16 years old throwing 95, right? And lefty. So it
Yeah.
was like, whoa. So you knew there'd be 10, 12 scouts. And I was like, man, not me. I'm gonna hit one right back at that guy's head, man. Watch out. False confidence, right, Joe?
Yeah.
But fortunately for me, like the game starts and boom, like you know, first pitch comes in, didn't even see it. I was like, wow, quicker, better be quicker, Trent. Stepped out of the box, kind of took a breath and was like, man, go fast. The next pitch, Steve's probably thinking, little dude, I'm just gonna blow it by him. And fortunately, Steve hit my bat, which was great. I swung fast and I hit it right back up the middle for a hit. And I almost forgot to run, right? Like I was like, whoa, I did what I said I was gonna do. And yeah, took off, rounded first. We ended up losing the game 3-1, tough game. And we were a pretty good team, but he was great. I scored that run and got another hit. And two of those 12 scouts called my dad and was like,
Wow.
hey, what would Trent, do? He's just gonna go to college, gonna sign is he looking to do a contract out of high school? And so now I'm on the radar, Joe, right? Like this is how you get discovered. When scouts come around, they got to watch everybody. I know who they're coming for, but they got to watch everybody. So, for those people out there who want to get seen and you're around performers and high quality people, whether that's the symphony, wherever you're at, they come to watch everybody because they're there. And so if you can show out day in and day out and you get those opportunities to play and be in that company, you got a chance. And that's how I saw it. And I always thought and tell people, Joe, you don't need every coach to love you. You need one.
Yeah. That's
That's
it.
it, man.
100%. So of all of these things that you've done, all the mountain peaks and everything you've evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm probably, professionally, I mean, I'm most proud of my kids, man. I got five
Yeah.
kids. They're great. They're just challenges of life, man. And it's just hard to walk with them but fun and fun and tough at the same time. Um, my wife's just awesome as a mom for them, and that's fun and it's going to be great to continue to watch the impact they have on this world. And then for me professionally, probably I've really helped a lot. I'm a dream maker, man. I mean, I've helped a lot of people reach their dreams, and the probably the most strongest thing professionally as a young man was, building out other coaches. I helped a lot of coaches come up, see what they really wanted to do, position them for opportunity. And I think I've had like 20 coaches now coaching the major leagues that were in a program under our direction, getting started. And that's always been probably, I think, my biggest contribution professionally to sports. And then, on the business side, we help companies double their EBITDA. We help them, get positioned for sell, and it's sell their baby, right? They've got their company and they sell it and they retire, and they create different levels of wealth and generational wealth, and really get a chance to do the things they really want to do because they position that opportunity. And being a part of that feels really special. And so I mean, that's been the celebration for me, to come alongside and celebrate with others.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you
I don't
think
know if
you
I
are?
run the show. I think the show runs me a lot, Joe. Um, my perception of me is I'm a hard charging, passionate guy about continuous improvement, and I really want to see others succeed around me. I wear my heart on my sleeve, which is a blessing and a curse. And man, I always see areas of improvement for myself. And I'm probably my biggest critic. I mean, I'm pretty tough on me, and that's also a blessing and a curse, Joe.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I think that's how I see myself, and I hope that at the end of the day, at my eulogy, people will be like, "Hey, this guy impacted my life, modeling, giving me some advice, coaching, sharing some wisdom." I've had the blessings of some fabulous experiences, Joe, and man, they're just not mine, right? Like, I was put in a position for some reason, and I want to share those experiences with other people. That's why I wrote the book, right? And leadership is hard, and I'd like to have others know that they can do it and they can be successful, and they're not going to do it without making mistakes, and that's okay. Like, that's all right. Like, we got to come back to what we believe is good and right, and most of us know that. And following that instinct and learning some tools for the tool belt is a big deal.
So Trent, if anyone wants to get the latest book, reach out. Any of the good business in your world, where can they go?
Yeah, they can go to leadershipity.com or trentmclark.com and find us. The book is on sale, pre-sale right now on Amazon and Bulk and Barnes and Noble and all sorts of different sites. And they can find me on all the major social ins on either at Trent M. Clark or Leadershipity. And feel free, love to have you connect. My email's trent@leadershipity.com. Feel free to reach out. Always happy to talk with folks and hopefully help them in any way I can.
Man, Trent, this has been a delight. What you do has been seismic, continues to be. Keep doing the great work, man. It's so great to run into you.
Joe, such a pleasure, man, to be on the show and just keep delivering this impact for people. I'm so grateful for people like you, because as a guy who's out there listening and running, and man, I love picking up shows like yours and just getting more just nuggets of wisdom and wealth along the way, because always looking to get better. So I appreciate all the contributions that you make, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Best.